How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another discussions video. Now today is the, I guess, long wanted part 2 of the FNAF movie review, which I did only a week ago because usually I do about an every other week for these discussion videos, but because I had planned on talking about the lore in the movie review, I kind of still have it fresh on my mind and prepared. So I thought, why not just make it an early one and have another discussions video just a week after? Because it still kind of fits in with that FNAF celebration time. So I just kind of thought, since it's fresh on the mind and I'm already kind of prepared for it, why not just kind of talk about it? Now, as you can probably tell, this video is not going to be another almost hour-long video talking about the lore of the movies and everything else, because I don't want to sit here for another 50 minutes and talk about that, since there's not that much to talk about. I mean, I'm sure somebody could sit down and talk about FNAF movie lore compared to the other stuff for about 50 minutes, but that's not me, because I don't have the time nor the will to sit down and do that for 50 minutes. So it's gonna be a bit of a shorter one, but I just kind of wanted to talk about the lore of the movies compared to how they're in the books and the games. So kind of how events, I try to kind of think how to word it, how the events are similar or different to that in the games, and then after I'm kind of done comparing them, then we'll talk about stuff like where I think the movies will go in the future. So two different sections, I guess, to this video. So anyway, with that, let's just start with comparing the movies to what has come before in the books and the games, because there are similarities and very big differences. So to start, probably the biggest one, and the one that I wanted to kind of make, the reason I want to make a video about the lore of the movies, is the sort of family dynamic. Because in the books more, but in the games as well, William has 3 kids: Elizabeth, Mike, and the crying child. And then Henry has 1 kid, Charlotte, and that's sort of the family dynamic, right? You have the father with 3 kids and the father with 1 kid. But in the movie, and I guess it translates over in the books as well, but in the movie, William only has Vanessa, and supposedly, I think probably our Henry stand-in has Mike, Abby, and Garrett. So very different names aside from Mike, and the family dynamic has kind of switched to where William is the one with 1 kid and our Henry stand-in person is the one with 3 kids. So it's a very odd, bizarre change, since you would think that you would kind of keep that the same, since that's kind of the whole point for William doing what he does, is because he loses his kid to Fredbear. But maybe that's not entirely true, which could get explained more in the Secrets of the Mimic game, which I think is going to take place in 1979 at a Fredbear's. That's my guess. So we could be seeing a change in what makes William, go crazy and start going after kids. But I kind of always thought that it was because the crying child got chomped by Fredbear, right? That's kind of what we've all assumed. And so it's interesting to see that in the movies, he doesn't really have that, unless Vanessa somehow died when she was a kid and she's a robot, which I don't believe, because everybody uses the evidence that Vanessa's a robot because she doesn't have blood when she was stabbed, except she does. It was just on the other side of where she was stabbed, which doesn't make any sense, but I think it's just weird movie mess ups, because there's a couple of those in the movie. So, and I was going to bring that up in the movie review, but I kind of forgot about it, but I'll talk more about Vanessa in a bit. But I think I don't exactly know what William's motives are, except for maybe he's just a serial killer, which I would be completely fine with if he was just oh, I'm just a serial killer and I kind of know what's going on with these hauntings. Like, I know how this works and stuff, but, you know, I don't really have any, like, motives for anything. I just do it because I think that would be a lot better than him being, like, a mad scientist mixed with, I don't know, like, having an actual motive. Like, you know, sometimes people just do stuff because. So, I think that if that's the way they go, then that'd be awesome. Otherwise, if they go with a different route and it's like Vanessa was somehow killed and she's a robot and he's been whatever, I would also be fine with that. I think that'd be kind of cool. But I'm fine with anyway that they decide to go with William's motives for doing what he does. But I do think it's interesting that he doesn't have the same motive that he does in the games and I guess the books. I don't know that much about the books, and I guess I should probably explain that. When I say books, I'm talking about the book trilogy, the Silver Eyes trilogy. So that's what I mean about books. I'm not talking about like Fazbear Frights or Tales from the Pizzaplex or stuff like that. Just talking about the trilogy. So I do think it is very, very interesting that they decided to switch that up, since that's like a very core aspect of the games. Is that, you know, like the kid dynamic. So I do think that's interesting why they changed it up, and I'm excited to see where they take it in FNAF 2 and 3. But anyway, aside from that, this is just going to be a rambling video if you guys couldn't tell, because I just like doing that, but you know, whatever. So I guess that's sort of the William side of things for right now, family dynamic wise. For the Henry stand-in side, obviously we have our Henry stand-in, which may or may not have worked at Fredbear's / Freddy's, but we don't know for certain that he did, because supposedly there's a mechanic that kind of looks like him, but it's also like it's probably not him. So it's hard to tell, but I do think that the families know each other, because when we see Garrett get kidnapped, he's just kind of sitting in the back seat staring out the window, not doing anything. And if he was taken against his will by somebody he didn't know, I would kind of assume that he at least wouldn't be looking back at his brother all like, hey, you know, this is not bad, I'm just kind of sitting in this car. So I like to assume that the families do know each other, and that it was sort of like how in the novel, I guess I should say that the novel trilogy, that might be better. In the novel trilogy, we know that William, he changes his name, right? Like he does in the movies. I guess in the movies he changes his name like he did in the books, but whatever. So they both change their names. But in the novel trilogy, William goes by Dave Miller, and apparently he loses like a bunch of weight and like kind of he looks different than he used to, is what I'm trying to say. So I think that that might be an approach that they were doing in the movies too, because if the families knew each other, then I feel like Mike would be like, hey, I know you, I've seen you before, because he would definitely be old enough to remember this guy if they knew each other. So it definitely seems like he would have been like, hey, I know who you are. But if William / Steve Raglan changed his appearance a bunch, lost a bunch of weight, whatever, you know, he changed the way he looked, then Mike wouldn't recognize him, but he would recognize Mike, which you do see in the movie when he's like Mike Schmidt, and then he kind of pauses through his last name and then just stares Mike down for a minute and then acts all like super friendly and be like, oh, hey, you know, you should totally take a job, whatever. So he definitely knows Mike, which means that I think that they know the families, because he knew that Garrett was his brother, and so there's definitely a connection there. I hope all this is making sense so far. It's a big rambly video, but I'll probably do like a summary at the end. But so there's a connection there in terms of they know each other, but we don't, I guess we do get that in the novels, don't we? Because Charlotte knows, or I guess kind of knows William a little bit, but I don't know exactly know that much about those. So take everything I say about the novel trilogy with a grain of salt, because I don't know everything. I just know some stuff. But I'm trying to think what else, because there's not really much, like, I mean, I guess Freddy, like, I'm just trying to think what else to talk about aside from the family dynamics for, like, lore from the first movie. I don't really know. I mean, really all I wanted to talk about was, like, the family dynamics and how they could know each other and stuff like that, which I talked about a little bit in the first movie review, but I just wanted to expand more in this one. So I'm just kind of trying to think, like, I mean, like, what else is it? Like, Freddy's closed at some point, which happened in the games as well, and in the books. So it's like, there's not really much else to talk about. I guess, oh, here's something else I can talk about. I just remember this. William, I kind of like the movie version of William, because he does seem very, like, heartless and he just doesn't care, like, whatever. But I also think he's a lot, like, he's probably the scariest version of William that we've met. I mean, he is pretty creepy in the first book, in the Silver Eyes book, and in the games we don't really know that much about how he really acted before becoming Springtrap. But I remember sitting in the theater the first time, and we're watching the Springlock scene, right? He's getting all Springlocked. He's like, oh, good, you know, it's stabbing me in the stomach. Oh, this is bad. I'm gonna die. And then instead of being like, get the suit off me, help, 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 he just looks at everybody. He goes, you know, he does his I always come back, and he just puts the helmet on, and he's like, yeah, I'm accepting this. So I always thought that was creepy, because to me it didn't seem like I'm gonna put the helmet on and secure my, like, superiority and I'm gonna be fine. To me it was like, he knows, yep, if I get spring locked, I'm gonna become, like, the animatronic suit, and it's like, my soul is gonna be in the suit and I'll be able to control it. Like, he knows. So that's what I liked about him, like, putting the helmet on and kind of just accepting his fate, because he knew. He was like, yep, I'm gonna get spring locked, but I'm gonna become part of the suit, which I thought was kind of creepy, because he didn't seem scared. And I know everybody wanted, like, the spring lock scene to be him, like, terrified and super scared and like, you know, get it off, go, and he does his, like, iconic fan version or whatever. But I thought it was a lot scarier with him knowing what's gonna happen, and he just accepts it anyway, because I was like, oh, he knows what's happening and he doesn't care. So I thought that was good and very interesting. Like, he clearly has had time to experiment with, I guess, Remnant and what makes the animatronics work in terms of being haunted, because he's clearly had time to do that. He knows that the children haunt the suits. He knows that he can haunt the suit. So he's had a lot of time to think about this, which he didn't have in the games. He had that in the novels, because he knew that the ghosts, he knew that the ghosts haunted the animatronics, but he was also, like, you know, didn't exactly want to get spring locked, which I can't blame him. But the movies are just so interesting, because I guess the movie right now, since he knew, he accepted his fate, and he knew way in advance compared to any other time that we've seen him. So I think that's very interesting how they portrayed him with that. So that was just another thing I had, but whatever. I know this is very rambly and kind of just all over the place, but I hope you guys understand. And I also just like doing these kind of just open hand and free. And well, I'm trying to think, I guess just winging it, I guess, would be a good way to put it, because I mean, why not? I don't really want a script and sit there and read it, so why not just kind of just freehand it, I guess. So that's, I guess, it for what I wanted to talk about with the lore of the movies, which are just kind of those two things. We'll do a quick summary for those who want a better explanation. Here's my best attempt at trying to have a well put together summary of what I just said. In the movies, William Afton has one kid, Vanessa, who is an actual human being. Even when she's an adult, she's an actual human being, because when she is stabbed, she does have a blood stain. It's just on the wrong side, which I'll have a picture of. So she's real, but she's Afton's kid, obviously. But he's only got the one. And we don't really know his motives for what he's doing. He might just be a serial killer. He might have other motives. But he's got whatever motives he has, we don't know. Now, our Henry stand-in has 3 kids, like William does in the games and the books. So Henry stand-in has Mike, Garrett, and Abby. And Garrett gets kidnapped by William, which I think that the families knew each other, because Garrett seemed kind of perfectly fine going with William. I feel like there would have been screaming or something if he didn't want to go, but he seemed perfectly fine going with William. Like, he's just kind of sitting in the back of the car being like, bye Mike, kind of a thing. So he seemed fine, which to me implies that he knew William and that the families knew each other. And then that's sort of it for the family dynamic right now, as far as we know. Oh, I guess one other thing would be that William changed his appearance and name so that he could blend back into society. Mike didn't recognize him, but he recognized Mike. And so they know each other because he knew Mike and Garrett were brothers, which he wouldn't know if Garrett was some random kid he just kidnapped. So they know each other, but William changed his appearance to blend back in like he did in the novels. So that's it for the family dynamic summary. And as for the William alone summary, I guess, like his knowledge of how stuff works, I feel like he's much farther along than he was in the novels or the games, because he knew that putting on the suit would mean that he would become part of the suit and that he could control it. He knew that the kids were inside of the suits and that they controlled the animatronics, and he completely accepted his fate when he was getting spring locked, and he didn't even try, which to me is a lot more scary than if he had just been freaking out. So that's sort of the summaries, I guess, of those two. Maybe a little bit with Vanessa. She's not a robot because, one, when she's stabbed, there is blood. You just don't see it on the knife. And I mean, he puts the knife down, I think, so you don't see it on the knife, but you do see it on her. It's just on the wrong side, I think. But yeah, no, she's not a robot. She's a human. Also, if she went to the hospital and she was a robot, I feel like them hooking her up to medical equipment would be like, why am I not getting a heartbeat from this? Let's see what's going on. And so then they like be like, oh, we gotta operate. And so then they operate and they're like, oh, it's a robot. Like, I feel like they would have known. If you're a hospital, you would know. So she's not a robot, she's a person, whatever. So that's sort of the summary, I guess, the big summary of what the lore section is. And I do want to talk a little bit more about where I think the movies will go. I guess sort of predictions for the second one and where I think it'll end up. So obviously the second movie, taking place with the toy animatronics. I'm curious to see how they'll place them in the timeline, since the toys come before the originals, which would mean that this movie would supposedly take place before the first movie, but the characters are coming back for the second one. So what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a second Freddy's location that they're going to have to go to to kind of find some answers. Like, because obviously Mike is still going to try to find answers about Garrett. So maybe what'll happen is he's like, well, you know, I got William. He's gone, right? So I can't really talk to him about what happened to Garrett. But there's a second Freddy's location that they find or that they know of. So they go there and they try to figure it out. He's like, well, you know, I know who the guy is, so let's visit where he's been. So then they'll go to the other Freddy's location. That'll be the previous one. And we'll see the toys. And maybe what will happen is that instead of it being... I'm trying to think how to word it. Like, instead of it being a movie that's like, oh, you know, the pizzeria is open and they're doing whatever. Like, maybe it's closed. And that the... I'm trying to think, because like the Wizards become the originals, but the Wizards are in the movie. I feel like they're gonna go to the location, but there's gonna be flashbacks. I think there's gonna be a bunch of flashbacks to when the toy FNAF 2 location was open, and that's where we'll see them in their glory. But obviously we'll see them in more than just flashbacks. So I just am curious how they're going to do that. But I think that there'll be a second location that they'll go to, and there'll be a mix of current movie time and like flashbacks between like when Garrett was there and stuff like that, because Garrett's probably the puppet. So I think there's gonna be some flashbacks and mixing there. But I'm also like, obviously I feel like the missing children have to come back for the movie, but I think the only other way, aside from like, I don't know, because the only other way they could do it is setting it after FNAF 1, which wouldn't make any sense since the toys come before. But they could set it after FNAF 1, and that Fazbear just went back, scooped up everything from the first location and like opened the new one and said, hey, you know, we're back in business. But I mean, there was no mention of Fazbear Entertainment, I guess, in the movie. So I'm really curious where they're gonna go. But I think it will culminate with some sort of sister location stuff in the third one, because that tends to be how the books went, and since the novels are kind of similar to the movies, it'll probably end with like Circus Baby and some of the fun times, which I hope that they would do well. I mean, I would really like to see a fun time animatronic in live action, because I think that'd be really cool to see the faceplates open and all that kind of stuff, especially because of how well the animatronics look for all of these. I mean, some of the behind the scenes stills for FNAF 2, like Toy Bonnie looks spot on, really good. So I would look forward to seeing like fun time stuff. But yeah, I mean, I also hope we get to see Fredbear at some point, but you know, those are just hopes. But it will culminate in probably William getting destroyed and whatever. They'll be it's set in the future or something, I don't know. But it'll end up with William being defeated and whatever. They'll win. Good guys win. Mike wins. Vanessa wins and maybe dies. I don't know. Somebody's going to die. Somebody has to die. So someone's going to die. But I think it'll culminate with William getting defeated once and for all. And then it'll be like a hip hip hooray. Maybe we'll make more movies, because I doubt they'll just stop at 3. But anyway, that's sort of my rambling, incoherent talk about movie lore and where I think the movie's going to go. Yeah. I mean, very random, very whatever, but you know, I hope you guys understood. Yeah, I just thought it'd be fun to post one today and whatever. Because like, you know, why not? I kind of just wanted to do some rambling talk about the movies and stuff. So I will be having a poll up for the next not next movie topics, no, just next FNAF discussions topics, which there's one in there that I really hope wins, because I really want to make a video on it. But you know, whatever. Also, as of right now, I am at 800 subscribers, but I'm not sure when I'm going to get around to recording the 800 sub special. So I'll try to get that whenever I can. It might be in a week, Hopefully not, but it might be in a week because it's hard for me to record that during the week because I don't really want people to be home when I'm trying to sing. But, you know, whatever. We'll see. But I will try to get that out at some point. But yeah, whatever. I don't know. Just kind of talking. But I guess with that, you know, we're coming to the end of the video. So Shameless Plugs, go check them out. They're linked down below. Leave a like on the video if you could understand what I was saying. Leave a comment if you want to say anything, or if you have any other game or discussion topics. Be sure to subscribe so that you can see more content like this, because I post FNAF content every day. So be sure to subscribe. Thank you all for watching. I hope that you understood this video. And comment incoherent rant if you made it this far in the video. And with that, I will see you in tonight's regular gaming video. Goodbye.